we have already discussed leadership styles, motivation, and how they relate to the work behavior in any organization. If you would recollect that in the leadership styles, we were talking about empowering leadership style, where the leader is trying to empower the employees in the organization. This is one of the recent additions to our understanding of leadership styles. Today, to understand that what is the meaning of empowerment and how employees feel motivated if they are empowered, this is going to be discussed. Empowerment, in fact, many researchers have tried to say that empowerment is also embedded into participative management. In other words, participative management, when we are trying to implement, idea is that you are trying to empower the employees in an organization. So, let us see what is the process of empowerment, how researchers have tried to define empowerment, and the other correlates of this process. So, we will talk about empowered employees, empowered organizations, and empowerment process. So, let us see if the purpose of one of the major purpose, I should say, of the managerial function is that the manager tries to see that the employees feel empowered. So, what will happen? If employees are empowered, they become responsible towards job, have a sense of ownership, they feel satisfied in whatever they accomplish, they have control over whatever they do and how things are done. Also in this process is the recognition of their ideas, and the knowledge that they are important for organizations. So, you can see that this is what employees feel when they are empowered. There are many techniques. Participative management is one such major technique that we are trying to implement in the organizations of today. On the other hand, we are also talking about empowered organizations. Now, here it refers to the work culture, the climate of the organization, and where we are trying to suggest that in an empowered organization, people should not expect to be told what to do. People should know what to do. That means the communication is so clear, the instructions are so clear, and people are so much involved in the work that you need not tell them that you have to do this and that. They are so responsible people. If that is the work climate of an organization, which we may call as the empowered organizations. Now, empowerment as a process has been researched and the various authors have tried to give us the definitions of what empowerment would mean. So, let us now look at couple of definitions, and this will clarify your understanding of what we exactly mean by empowered employee, empowered organization, or empowerment as a process. You can see these are just from the various writings of the authors. So, there is no order or anything of that kind. We are talking about empowerment as the community, that the empowerment means communities gain mastery over their lives. Empowerment is defined as a process through which people become strong enough to participate within, share in the control of an influence, events and institutions affecting their lives. Empowerment is also defined by Bell and Zemke as the self-generated exercise of judgment. In fact, when we move on to various definitions of empowerment, we will also see in later part of our discussion, we will also discuss that these days we are talking about empowered employees and also empowerment of women in organizations. That is one of the very current concerns that management thinkers have. Sternberg, he has defined empowerment as giving authority to make everyday decisions. And you can relate to some of the theories of management like participative management, and you can see that many of these definitions are trying to talk about participative work climate and participative management. Then Patterson, he has defined empowerment as the authority that is delegated from those who have positional power. Empowerment means empowering to the lowest possible level employees within the organization or society. We are talking about empowerment as a process which is being used by managers and also by perhaps the policy makers in terms of the social development. That is why the definitions that we are discussing here encompass all these factors. Now, empowerment also means to develop problem solving capabilities in the people at these levels. These levels means all levels in fact. So, that means it includes problem solving capabilities. Empowerment refers to assisting these people. When we say the participants in a system, what we are meaning here, the employees, the participants. So, empowerment means to assist these people in taking charge of their own destinies. Crawford, on the other hand, has said empowerment would mean to help all these people to achieve their full potential. So, here also we are talking about achieving intrinsic potential of people. By giving them empowerment, we are trying to unfold their potentials, giving them that opportunity. And with every definition you can see that we are basically trying to say that in an organization, if you want to manage very effectively, one of the major concerns today is empowering employees and creating an empowering climate. And many authors are trying to do their research and propose number of theories and observations, and here we are discussing some of those. Further, Staples, as you can see, is suggesting that to have positive impact of empowerment spill over the entire lives of these people. So, here we are extending a step ahead, and we are not talking about that when employees are joining your organization, it is only within the we can say the boundaries of that organization, but it should have impact on their overall life. So, not only when they are at the place of work, but overall life must be enriched by the issue or the opportunity of empowerment. Now, empowerment is also defined as a process by which oppressed persons gain some control over their lives by taking part with others in the development of activities and structures that allow people increased involvement in matters which affect them directly. So, that is a process. It begins, it has the correlates, and then finally it has the outcome. We will take couple of other points of views. Employees make their own choices. When they are empowered, they take their own choices to speak out on their own behalf and control their lives. Pearson has talked about empowerment in terms of voicing the silenced, owning one's own vision, facilitating transformation from subject to object, creating autonomy, and raising self-esteem. Yet another emphasis has been placed on empowerment as a psychological process. So, some authors have tried to give us a concept called the psychological empowerment, and psychological empowerment is defined as a motivational construct manifested in 4 cognitions, meaning, competence, self-determination, and impact. Cognitions are the higher mental processes which refer to your choices, your decision making, information processing, and overall the higher order thinking. So, psychological empowerment is an additional explanation that we find in the recent years. And in fact, one of our studies we have found that when employees have psychological empowerment, they also demonstrate greater commitment, greater much better outcomes are there. We conducted a survey of the Indian industries using psychological empowerment as one of the major factors, and that is what we have found in most of our Indian industries. Gupta has tried to define empowerment as the process of sharing power and providing an enabling environment by removing hurdles in order to encourage employees to take initiative and decisions to achieve organizational and individual goals. Lee and Co. they have suggested that the psychological state of a subordinate perceiving 4 dimensions of meaningfulness, competence, self-determination and impact, which is affected by empowerment behavior of the supervisors. So, these are the 4 psychological states which constitute the empowerment behavior of supervisors. In all these definitions, as you can see, that we are adding on to certain newer explanations, certain new variables you can see, even though there is a common element also going on, which one can say that is reflected into the process of participative management. But every author has tried to make an addition by looking at the process very deeply. Therefore, the empowerment process, based on all these explanations, we are trying to there is an error here. Stage 1 is conditions leading to psychological state of empowerment. Organizational factors are the first one. Supervision, this needs to be corrected. Supervision, reward system, nature of job. When we are talking about empowerment, these are some of the factors which are important, and then we go on to understand supervision. We go on to the next stage, and then where we use the managerial strategies and techniques for empowerment. Here you can see that participative management is very, very important, and in fact, all the other techniques of motivating employees that we have already discussed in our earlier lectures are also included here. So, empowerment is many things at the same time, and there is it's an interwoven process, with the motivation, leadership style and overall work culture. So we can't say that I just isolate empowerment and not talk about motivation, leadership and work culture. We have to understand these in totality. But for the purpose of understanding the process, we are trying to talk mainly about empowerment today. So, the use of managerial strategies and techniques would include participative management, goal setting, feedback system, modeling, contingencies and competence, E-based rewards, job enrichment, and of course, the list could be much longer, but few aspects we are trying to include here. But you can see that we have talked about most of these when we were discussing our motivational strategies. These lists are not exhaustive, we can add in a number of other factors, but for the purpose of understanding today, we have included couple of factors. At this third stage, which refers to providing self-efficacy information to subordinates using different sources, and here we have listed 4 sources: inactive attainment, vicarious experience, verbal information, emotional arousal. That is what as a manager one could provide information to the subordinates using different strategies, and some of these are here. Also, in the next step, we are talking about the results. If you have empowered your subordinates or if you have empowered your employees, then why? We are expecting some results, and some of those which we have listed here, that we can strengthen their efforts. We can also find that performance expectancy of level in the personal efficacy that we can see. You would recollect that whenever we are talking about management, studies, there are 2 major concerns that we have about performance management and the satisfaction of employees, because people are important and without them we cannot manage any system or any situation or any organization. Therefore, performance expectancy of level in personal efficacy is very important here. At the 5th stage, where we have taken in the idea from Conger and Kanongo's work, this is suggesting that empowerment will also lead to some behavioral effects, which will mean that initiation and persistence of behavior to accomplish task objectives. Again, we are talking about performance management, which is one of the major concerns for us. But here the specific task objectives we are talking about. Therefore, when we are trying to understand the process of empowerment, employees need the organization as much as the organization needs employees. There is not any kind of either or situation. Both need each other, and therefore employees should be treated as they want to be treated by the leader. In the process of empowerment, we have to consider number of factors, and some such factors are that both employees and organization, they need each other. So, they are complementary actually to the process of development or performance. Therefore, the employee should be treated as they want to be treated by the leaders. Employee empowerment also leads to total quality management. You must have heard about this, and we have talked about total quality management in some other references also. The quality management is there in the production process, quality management is there in whatever you perform, any task performance. So, the quality becomes very important, and in fact, we can say that quality is there in the minds of people, and we can create a system where we have total quality management. Here we have listed couple of factors which are necessary for having total quality management, which relate to empowerment of employees. So, the climate should have trust, people should be given responsibilities, participation is inevitable here, then of course, the harmony and group affiliation. Earlier we have also talked about the group behavior and how people behave in a group earlier in some of the earlier lectures. We have also talked about responsibilities and various types of factors for job enrichment. So, we can see that we are also trying to relate some of the motivational strategies here with employee empowerment to see that the total quality management is achieved, which is our goal, because in today's globalized competitive world, unless we have quality, we cannot achieve results, and to achieve quality, empowerment becomes very important. This is what we are trying to understand now. So, you can see that how closely linked are the issues that we have discussed in couple of earlier modules and what we are doing today. This brings us to that concept total quality management again. Total quality management in an organization, in an organizational strategy in fact, this accompanies the techniques that quality product and services to the customers could be given. Which accompany techniques, not with accompany techniques, which accompany techniques that quality product and services to the customers that you give. The techniques relate to the quality product and services to the customers. Total quality management also refers to make it right for the customers, respond to every customer inquiry, customer is always right, not only meet customers' expectations, but delight them with the process. Teamwork and cooperations are important for individual action and production. Now, we are trying to relate empowerment to total quality management, and we are trying to see that how total quality management could be achieved through this human factor. We are talking about the human factor, not that the technical and the other aspects are not important, but right now our discussion is concentrated on the human factors, and we are trying to say that human factors coupled with other technical factors will result into total quality management, but these factors are equally important. We have also talked about teamwork earlier in our discussion. You can now relate the concepts of teamwork also to total quality management, as we have done in the earlier part of our modules. Now, in total quality management, everyone should be involved in the quality effort. And what could be the process for that? The process for that will be empowering employees and using participative management there. If you want really to involve employees in the total quality effort, then you have to involve everyone in the decision making in whatever way you could perhaps, and there is the use of participative management. You have to treat your employees that way you want your customers to be treated. Often we make a distinction, but you have to treat your employees very well. You have to respond to every employee's suggestions for quality improvement. Never be satisfied with the level of quality and always strive for continuous improvement. These issues, when we are raising, these issues also relate to quality improvement and performance, also in terms of your own performance, you can see. The concept of quality management has been well demonstrated in the quality circles concept that the Japanese management system has given to us. In the quality circles which are being practiced in the Japanese industries, and now of course that idea we have borrowed, and elsewhere in the other parts of the world people have borrowed that idea of quality management using quality circles. These are the Japanese industry's contributions to us. The idea of quality circles, this relates to involving employees of all levels in decision making, and they have tried to institutionalize it in their organizations, starting from the process of a suggestion box to a very serious brainstorming exercise and really coming out with the technical reports. So, the quality circles, the concept has been very well institutionalized in Japanese industries, and in fact, in this process they have been able to arrive at very many high level technical decisions also. Say design of a product, they have been able to achieve lot of success in this regard. That is why, and you can see that quality circles is a special case of participative management, and this is being practiced in most of the successful companies today. Okay. But this is mainly coming from the human side of analyzing the quality management. So, when we are looking at the total quality management, we are wanting to empower our employees and we are trying to achieve results. what we are trying to understand here is that whenever we are implementing any principle of management, basically there is an interwoven idea with the technical management and the other principles of management. So, the total quality management actually is a movement, it is a total process, okay, where empowerment becomes a very important component. We have already sort of discussed the techniques used, but let me repeat it again. We have to create a participative culture if you really want people to get empowered and if you really want people to give you the best quality. So, the participative culture is something very important, and then of course, the work design and job enrichment, the ideas which we have discussed from Herzberg's theory. You would recollect earlier in our discussion, we had discussed the ideas of job enrichment. Then we are not here totally deleting the hygiene factors, which again are the factor 1 of Herzberg's theory, because hygiene factors, if you would recollect, are the prerequisites for job enrichment. And so, the hygiene factors in the work and living environment are also very important. Then we have earlier discussed about money as a motivator. That was our discussion Monday, and we can see that fringe benefits and other welfare measures are also very important. So, we have to design the whole system as to how to achieve the best results by combining a number of variables, a number of factors to arrive at the best performance. Then of course, we have also discussed the communication process at length, and effective communication makes a very effective manager. People have much greater satisfaction, and this also results into better performance, and people get empowered, they feel empowered. In this process, we are trying to optimize the human capital. We are trying to optimize the human capital by empowering people and achieving results. Therefore, the levels of empowerment, we can say from very little to very high level. Here we have tried to put that as very little empowerment as reflected in the traditional production line firms. That is very little empowerment is there. We are talking about say the manufacturing scenario of some organization, that how much empowerment are we giving to people in different production system setup. At the first level, we are saying very little empowerment, which is reflected in the traditional production line firms. Then moderate involvement as reflected in organizations that involve employees in terms of quality circles and suggestions, that I have discussed just now. But do you all understand the traditional industry where you have a production line, where people are working, sometimes in the production line a man is part of that production line system. In that the possibility of empowerment is reduced, because every day you are working in the production line, the same perhaps performance is there. Your creative your creativity is not there, your involvement which comes from within is also not there. So, at the second level we are talking about moderate involvement as reflected by organizations that involve employees, and the examples I have already discussed, the quality circles that we are practicing all over the globe now, the which originated from the Japanese system, and the suggestion box that we are just discussed. These are the at the second level, the process of involving and empowering people. Then we are also talking about empowerment at the third level. So, at the third level we are talking about fairly substantial involvement as reflected by organizations where jobs are designed so that employees can use a variety of skills and have a great degree of autonomy in carrying out their job. So, here a step ahead in terms of the involvement or empowerment of people in an organization. Okay, where employees can use a variety of skills and have greater degree of autonomy in carrying out their work. Some element of job enrichment is also coming here, if you can see, some element of job enrichment is also coming here. And of course, the high involvement in which personnel throughout share information and work together to solve problems and complete tasks. And this is a case of total participative management that we have discussed, also as part of our earlier discussion, and maybe we will take up that in much greater details in the later part also of the course. So, the high involvement in which people share information and work together to solve problems and complete tasks. Having discussed that the empowerment could be at a very lower level, could be at intermediate level, or could be at the highest level. So, the idea is that empowerment leads to better quality management, better involvement of people, better results, and also this gives satisfaction to the employees and better performance to us. Because when we are trying to manage a situation and we are trying to talk about management, obviously we are looking for some results, and empowerment is one such situation and a strategy, we can say. Therefore, the benefits of empowerment, this is we are now trying to summarize the benefits, and also before we close for today, we will be talking about some of the difficulties and drawbacks. So, let us now see what are the benefits of empowerment in an organization for people, for the buyers, their customers, for the managers. So, the benefits, what are the benefits? So, more we have tried to list couple of them. The more rapid response to customer needs. Now, we will discuss some of the benefits of empowerment. In fact, we have been discussing that. The first benefit is that more rapid response to customer needs could be achieved. You would recollect that earlier we have discussed that for any organization we have to talk about employer, employee, and also customers for understanding the whole process. So, the most rapid response to customers' needs that is important. We also have to see that reduction in time needed to provide the goods and services that could be achieved using empowerment, increased employee satisfaction with the job, establishment of rapport between employees and customers, generation of better ideas about improving quality product and services, and greater retention of customer loyalty. And these are some of the benefits that we would certainly like to achieve by empowering our employees. In fact, this also summarizes the number of definitions that we have taken, and there we were trying to talk about what empowerment is all about. And we have now seen that if we are empowering our employees, we are likely to get this. So, overall if we say it is the total quality management, performance, satisfaction and so on. Therefore, to put empowerment into action, we have talked about this in many ways, but let us put it there is action driven approach which will suggest that you should discard conventional fixed ideas about work, which often people do, and they have a very fixed and rigid mind, and they think that only this is the way a particular thing could be done. But if there are empowering situations, and if there is empowering organization, then perhaps you are going to give this opportunity to your employees that they could discard the conventional and fixed ideas and come out with creativity, their new ideas. Thinking about how to do it, start by questioning current practices, which often many formal organizations do not encourage. That questioning about the current practices, that is why they do not begin to make improvements immediately and correct mistakes immediately. And so, if you really want empowerment to be taken into action, then you have to create these conditions for achieving better results. That is why we have tried to put that as the empowerment to action driven approach. So, as a manager, you have to be very alert, in terms of how you are empowering your employees, why you are empowering your employees, what strategies could be used and so on. However, there are few drawbacks, as even the best thing might have some drawbacks. Empowerment also, when we analyze as a process, we find that number of drawbacks may still be there, which you have to take care as a manager. When you are at the place of work, you have to see that if you are using empowerment, then a word of caution, how best you could use it, and that is why the purpose of discussing these drawbacks is that you should be very clear about that what are the limits. Okay, how much empowerment, why? Because there may be something negative also. So, let us see that more expensive, the empowerment sometimes is more expensive in selecting personnel, because every management decision also needs to be considered in terms of the budgeting. Okay, because the best thing may be there, but in terms of budget it may run to such a high limits that we have to decide somewhere. Time budgeting has to be there, the financial budgeting has to be there. Okay. Then more investment in training and training of people. Again the issue of budgeting is coming. We give training and many organizations invite us for giving trainings, but For training again, there is a budget, and if I say that I will spend 1 crore on empowerment training, unless my budget really allows, I may say that okay, for this year let me just give 5 training programs to this level of employees. So that is a drawback in the sense that even if I want that everyone should be given empowerment training, possibly I can't do it because of the financial factors. Then higher labor cost. See, sometimes when we are working in industries for our research work, and see, the training, of course, the training initiative has to come from the industry, but when we are going there for a research work and we are trying to tell them that we can sort of design your training programs based on the feedback that we might get. And when we are wanting to collect data, the labor cost is so high that often they do not allow us to collect data from their organizations, and which is very important for us. So, their cooperation and that investment, in the sense that if the higher labor cost is there and if I take away their time, that means that much labor cost I am including in my research activity. So, for empowerment training and empowerment studies, the labor cost is also one important factor. People might feel abandoned, and that it might lead to organizational anarchy, not necessarily all the time, but it might. Then a poor use of empowerment, such as overspending on services to ensure customer satisfaction, that is again detrimental to the whole process. So, we have put that as one of the drawbacks of implementing empowerment in the organization. So, you can see that even the best practices that we are trying to implement in the organization also need to be carefully designed and in terms of the overall organizational scenario. So, we have to involve the policy makers of the organization, the employees, the managers, middle level, the lower level, everyone, okay, and then decide about how much of empowerment and how much of budgeting and what kind of a design and who is going to give this training. For all that, the use of participative management techniques again could be used. Nevertheless, what we have tried to discuss in today's discussion, this module on empowerment, is that if we really want successful organizations and if we really would like to achieve the competitive advantage, we have no choice than to empower our organizations and empower our employees. And many other discussions that we have had, and in the other modules that we are going to discuss in this course will also highlight some of the issues. So, let us now move on to some other issues. Here I would like to mention that I have invited number of managers from industries, the practicing managers, and in one of the lectures in the future perhaps I am going to talk to them on number of issues, including the process of empowerment. So, we close it for today.